thank you very much for coming to Concerto today. Ja, it's working toch? Ja, Dikke staat aan hè, de video. Ja. Alright, very good. Alright, well thank you very much for coming. There's a couple of people in the room already, so that's good. I want to thank Robert Deutsch for coming to Amsterdam and talk about his book. And I want to thank Concerto for hosting this event. And of course the people who are here, I want to thank you for coming over here. Let me introduce Robert for a second first, and then we'll go on with the book. Robert is a German illustrator, graphic designer and comic book artist, and he likes beer, apparently. His work is exhibited in Berlin, Leipzig and Los Angeles, right?
Yes.
And his illustrations are published in numerous magazines. He graduated with a Master of Arts from the University of Art and Design, Burg
Giebichenstein? Yeah.
Thank you, in
That's
Holland.
right.
My German is not so good, but his English is a lot better. And you also got a design award, right, from
Yes.
Stein in 2014 for best communication. And his graphic novel on Alan Turing is his debut, and it just came out in Dutch, but it's also come out in
French.
French
Yes.
and English, or?
No, in English. I'm waiting for an edition in English.
All right, so in German, French, and Dutch for the moment.
Yes.
Well, that's a good start, definitely. But first, what was that design award for? It was for best design, I think. So what was it for exactly?
Yes, it is a prize from the university for the best students of the year, and they gave me this prize because of the book. Because the book is the part of the book is a part of my master thesis.
Right. So it's a graduation project.
Yes, the graduation project. Yes, of course. And I got a prize for it, the first prize for best communication. And this was the start of the project for me.
It wasn't finished then.
It wasn't finished. I did maybe the half of the book as my master thesis, and then I did a break because I have to find someone to finance the project, and then I have to apply for STIPs, and then I got 2 STIPs to work on it, and then I finished the book.
All right. So let's start by your subject. Who was Alan Turing, in your opinion?
Alan Turing, for me, it was. I have to tell you a story because I was listening to the radio, and they brought a small feature about his life because it was his anniversary, and I was listening to this feature, and they told a lot of weird stuff about him, and I didn't know him before, and I started to research about Alan Turing. I thought, yeah, this is a really nice guy, so I have to do something about him. And I start to...
This is the publisher, or one of the publishers.
Hansje!
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you, Hansje, for the assist in the middle of his story, but that's okay. Hi, Ari. But now you have to put it up all the time. That's going to be a tough one. Oh, it's going to stand still?
Yeah, and I start my research, and I discovered who this guy is, and I decided to do something about him.
So what was it about Turing that fascinated you so much?
Because at first it was the computer science, because we are always looking on our cell phones, and it's so important for us, for our life, that I thought, where it comes from? Why is someone interested into develop intelligence, artificial intelligence, like our mobile phones? And this was the reason. One of the reasons, and also the story behind him, because of the homosexuality, because he got a treatment in the 50s because of homosexuality. And,
because for people who don't know, homosexuality was outlawed in the UK until the 1960s somewhere. So Turing was chemically castrated, which was pretty bad actually, because you also show in the book what it does to his body. It's really, really terrible. And he was also the guy, and I thought that was a bit of ironic, he was also the guy who cracked the code, the Enigma code, during the Second World War. So the UK, the British could read the messages from the Nazis. So I thought, okay, so we got a German making a book about Alan Turing years later. It's kind of ironic in a way.
Yeah, of course it is, because he cracked the machine and he did a lot for the government, and some years later he got punished by the government because of homosexuality. It's very strange.
Yeah, it is. It's a strange story and fascinating at the same time. So there have been a couple of movies about Alan Turing. One is the Imitation Game with Cumberbatch, if you like him. I like him actually. He's also Doctor Strange, so I like it. And he's also Sherlock Holmes, so he's good. He's a good actor. But he also plays Alan Turing, and you got a film Enigma from the early 2000s. And although Alan Turing is not named as such, it's about the Enigma machine and such. So that's very interesting. And there are a couple of books. So why did you want to tell Turing's story as a comic book?
That's a good question, because I'm an illustrator and I'm working on all the time on images, and for me it was a good way to improve my style, to say, okay, I want to work on a longer project, so it's good to tell a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the reason why I decided to do a comic about him, but not an animation movie.
And what did you try to convey and add to Alan Turing's story that hadn't been told, for instance?
Yes, that was one of the things I discovered as I start my research. I saw this Alan Turing, as the Alan Turing I read about him wasn't named in the movies, or his history, like the homosexuality, wasn't shown in the books or in the movies. So I tried to show the real story about his character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you also focus in the book more about his personal life, although
Yes.
you do explain about Enigma and what came before. You really focus on his personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found very fascinating, I'm gonna get the book for a moment, is that Turing is kind of an oddball sometimes in your book as well. He's kind of a weird guy in a way, and I'm not saying this because he was gay, I'm not saying that at all, but there's a scene on page 44, so bear with me for a moment.
You mean maybe the scene with the gas mask?
No, the gas mask is a gas as well. But he walks past a car and then he makes. I don't know what the hell does.
Yeah, this is because of the imitation game, because it's one of the things he invited. The imitation game is based on his Turing test.
Yeah.
To imitate the nature,
Yeah.
like the machine have to imitate the nature, and so you can say, okay, it's intelligent.
All right, so that's why he makes ugly eyes at the car.
Yes, and he always did weird things, like he drive bicycle with the gas mask, because he has hay fever, and
He's got hay fever. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can find it, but it's a very impressive image nonetheless. It's interesting. You also, I wanted to ask you about. You also use a couple of tropes, visual leitmotifs in your books, and also in your illustrative work. And it's kind of a doll's house perspective.
Yes, I really like these perspectives of the early computer games from the 80s. It's like, something behind this computer thing, and this is the reason.
That's the reason why you choose to do it like this. I was fascinated by it because I thought you have a thing for kind of doll's houses or for perspectives.
Yeah, I really prefer these kind of perspectives to watch behind the doors or the walls.
Right. And I remember those computer games. I had a Commodore 64.
Yes.
Do you remember those? You had to play games by putting a tape in a recorder, and the graphics were poor compared to the stuff we have nowadays, but they were lovely to play though. Very simple, but cool stuff nonetheless. I was wondering, you present the death of Turing as a suicide in your book. Oh, spoiler alert, but I assume everybody knows he killed himself when he was only 41. Yes, he was very young. Yet there is no real consensus about his death. Some people think he killed himself by digesting an apple that was poisonous. And some people say the apple was put there by the British government,
Yes.
or the British Secret Service, so it's a James Bond apple. And some say his death was an accident because he used a lot of, he did experiments with arsenic in his house. But you chose to go for the suicide.
Yes, I took the suicide version, and there are these three theories. His mother said, okay, it was an accident because he was playing with all these chemistry things all the time, and also there is this theory about the British Secret Service. They killed him because it was secret what he did all the time, and for me it was much more logical after what did the government did to him, that I choose this end, the suicide by the apple, and this is the reason why I took or I put it Snow White inside the story, and that was one of the reasons for me with the apple at the end. And the apple stands for the apple from Apple, this computer company, and
right.
Yeah.
And what I was wondering about that, because during the book Snow White pops up quite a lot, and some of the dwarfs, they're looking like the Disney dwarfs, right? It's a Disney Snow White. Let's see if I can find.
Because he really likes the movie, and it was one of the favorite movies, and there are so many
This is
similar things to his story, so that I thought I will put Snow White into the story.
So I want to show you guys this for a moment. This is him walking through through the forest, jogging. I'm not sure if the British say jogging.
Yeah, he was also a long time runner. That's the name for marathon. He runs marathon, yes, and he applied for the Olympic Games as a marathon runner.
Right.
Yes.
But we also have the publisher whose wife is calling. Where the hell he's staying? He needs to eat probably. Yeah, exactly. But is Turing kind of Snow White in your opinion, and what makes him so Snow Whitey?
Yeah, I think there are some similar things because of the story of the character of Snow White, because she was also how to say
sort of exile from society, you mean? Or?
Yeah.
And also because he is not gay, Snow White.
No, Snow White was
not in the Disney version. I don't know what they do between panels, but although some of the dwarves might be gay, I don't know. They look gay. But so that's not the parallel. But she's ostracized from society, sort of, right? And
yeah, this is the reason also. Yeah.
And she's poisoned by a witch.
By the witch, yeah. It stands maybe for the government.
All right. It's interesting stuff. So how did the graphic novel come about? Are you somebody who writes a script first and then does the visual, or is it more? Do you have a more organic way of making comics?
I will call it more organic way, but I know what I want to tell. So I write down the story at first, and I'm doing a small storyboard at first, and then I start to do the ready page, the ready-made, yes, the real work.
All right. But I was also curious about what kind of materials do you use? Because this is all painted. It looks like acrylic paint.
Yes, this is my technique. So I'm coming from the paint. I'm more a painter. This is the reason why I use this technique, acrylic, and I'm very safe in it. And for me, it was also something to improve it, to do it every day, one page. And
you did a page a day?
Yes.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's kind of fast.
Yeah.
But I did two pages sometimes when I'm doing comics for clients. I have to do 2 pages one day.
Because you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was a reviewer who said like, oh, the painting style he uses is reminiscent of the 1950s style. And then I saw your other work, but I thought most of your illustrative work isn't in this style. So what do you make of a remark like that? Is that like spot on, or is it just bullshitting, you think? What's your opinion on that?
This is the influence of the new Leipzig school, because I'm living in Leipzig, in this area of the middle of Germany, and there are many painters like Neo Rauch, they are doing this, and also my professor Attack is also using this kind of technique, and he teach me a lot, and I'm really impressed by this work.
So you kind of channeled it sort of when
yes.
you were working on it. So did you want to invoke also the 1950 period?
Yeah, I really like it, because for me it was very near to work like this technique and this colors, with this brownish thing for the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. They stands for the 50s. But it's changing now, because it's changing because of the topics I'm working on. So
yeah.
the colors are going more fresh, and I'm using more white in it. So here you find a lot of yellowish in the colors. So that's the reason why it gets so brownish, so 50 style.
Mm. Yeah. Well, looking at your other work, you should check out his work, by the way, on Instagram. What's your handle on Instagram?
Robert Deutsch.
Oh, that's very easy. just his name. That's good. So there's not a lot of Robert Deutsches out there.
No, there's just one photographer from the US. He's doing a lot of photos of celebrities. Yeah, it's quite funny to see when you search my name. Yeah, you have this photographer and me, so and also a guy from Israel. He's a rabbi.
A rabbi?
Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting combination. Maybe it's the same guy.
Maybe.
That would be great. But you also have a thing for superheroes, I think. When I look at your illustrative work, especially you use the superhero as a symbol to address certain issues, in my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong. You drew Superman as a black man with a giant dick. I'm not saying that's stereotypical at all, but there's a message there. And Batman and Robin being gay, the why not painting.
Yeah.
So can you explain these works to us?
Yes, because I have a good friend and he is gay, and he has a big collection of toys. And when you are coming in this flat, you see all the things next to each other, and he combined it. And he always tell me, if you look to Batman and Robin from the 50s, you can say, okay, they have these suits on, and they look like gays. And this was the reason for me to start to show superheroes as gay art, personalities. And also this guy, with this black guy, I am doing jokes with them, with this big dick, and
so
it's kind of joking.
Yeah, because you have kind of there's a lot of sarcasm and satire in your work. Yeah. And why do you think this is sort of helpful kind of humor to get your message across? And what do you want to get across? It's
kind of, it's a good question, why it is so absurd that I put so many sarcasm into this.
Yeah, why is that?
Maybe it's because of me, I don't know.
Are you a sarcastic kind of guy?
Yeah, of course I'm sarcastic.
Well, because when you depict Batman and Robin as being gay, there's a whole history behind that provokes. For instance, in the 1950s, as you know, there was a terrible guy named Wortham who brought out a book, Seduction of the Innocent, and he basically said, if kids are reading comic books, they become criminals or gay. So he had a whole case study in which Batman and Robin, an older guy with a kid living in the same house, and they had flowers on the table, right? And they're wearing these robes. They must be gay because they're wearing robes, and there are flowers in the same room. So this guy figured out, I don't know why, he was a psychologist or something, but I think somebody should burn his degree, that if you read those comics, you became criminal and gay.
You have the answers of my illustrations.
All right, but was that something that you were consciously doing, or when you were making those illustrations?
Yeah, maybe I wrote about this. I read about this.
Because that's what I see. So I thought maybe you're just playful, being playful. But all right. In one of your interviews, you said, "Nerds are the true heroes of our society." Now, I'm not saying that I disagree with you on that one, being a nerd myself, and I think our Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, is probably a closet nerd. He's a closet case for a lot of things, but especially being a nerd.
Liar.
Sorry?
He's a liar.
Yeah, well, that's true, but it's.
I'm sorry, I don't know him.
Oh, you don't know him? Well, just be happy you don't know him. But could you explain that quote to us? Nerds are the true heroes of our society. Why do you think that?
Yeah, it's because of the school. When you have one of these nerds in your class, they are always quiet and they are in the background, and everybody is love about him. And later, when they are becoming adult, and they start to get really good in that what they do, or maybe like they are going to computer sciences, and then we get getting nerds, and they getting this audience maybe that they didn't got before they like this. It's hard to explain, but
apparently, yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay, because you sound like somebody who does a lot of stuff intuitively. Sorry, guys, intuitive. But
yes,
then,
intuitive. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's just like your English. Is
No, my English is the best. Yes, but I'm sorry.
No, that's good. But so you don't put a lot of thought maybe in it, but just work from the gut, in a way, from a gut feeling.
Yeah, maybe from a gut feeling, and this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when a guy as me comes along and asks you all these questions, you think like, what the hell? I don't know.
No, not really.
So that who is Bobby Feucht? He's kind of like an anti-hero.
Yeah, he's an anti-hero because this is also a small story I have to explain.
Yeah.
Because we went to Ghent in Brussels to the St. Lucas school. We were invited by this university as students, and we start to play with our names with the fellows. And the next to my name was Robert Deutsch, was Bobby Feucht, and there was also someone, his name is Malte Busch, and he was Malte Lutsch, and we just joke about these names, and this was the birth of this character, of this kind of character, and he's kind of as a sexual, overdressed guy in this black latex suit. And he has a really big gun, a really big dick gun, where he's punish all the people he don't like.
And he is a recurring character in your work, right? You use him a lot in your illustrations.
Yeah. Sometimes when I have time to work on my free work, so I'm using him to get free out of coming out of myself, and maybe something like an alter ego thing. And I really like to play with him.
Is he kind of your alter ego? As
maybe.
Is that your superhero
maybe
identity?
I have discovered something in me that I don't know. It wants to come out.
Yeah. So Turing, well, you got this book finished. That's it was a lot of work. I think you worked on it for 4 years, so that's
at least I worked 4 years on it.
And it was your first comic book?
Yes, my first. I did a small comic before, small comic scenes I started to work on, but I haven't finished it. I did a small comic book. It was a silent book, and I did 50 copies of it in a Reso print. And this was the story of Tweedledee and Tweedledum. In German, it's Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah.
This is a small story where the Humpty Dumptys met Alice. Before. This is the story before they met Alice.
A prequel to Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So there are a couple of sex scenes in the book, gay sex scenes to be precise, because Alan Turing was gay. Did it give you any trouble to make those? Is that okay? Is that okay nowadays, or was it?
For me, it was okay because I told a good friend of mine that I want to do these scenes in the book, and he said, yeah, of course, Robert, do it. It's important that you show this. And he gave me a bunch of comics for Ralph König, is a German comic maker from the 80s, and
he makes
doing
comics,
gay comics, and he's really funny. And I saw these scenes he draw in these comics, and I said, yeah, of course, I have to do something with it, something funny and something,
Yeah, was it
sexual?
I think it's very important because the suppression of gays is a major theme in your book, and it's good to just show it. Good, first of all, because it's showing that we've come a long way since the 1950s. Even the British, although they're leaving us pretty soon, so who gives a fuck? but they live in the European Union, but we still love you.
Yeah, this was also one of the reasons that I said, okay, yeah, I can do it. I have this chance to show something like that. When I'm living in China or Russia, I can't do it, and you get the censorship, and
Well, it will be a problem if it ever gets published in certain countries.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's the problem. It's one of the problems why it doesn't came out in China, because of the sex scenes of the homosexuality and.
So, what's your standpoint on that as a maker? Do you think like, okay, so I'll censor it, and so the Chinese can read the story, so that at least they know what happened, or do you think like, screw them, I'm not gonna compromise my work?
I don't compromise. I think it's important for everyone and something normal. We want to talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. So, what was the hardest thing for you to do? Because making a comic, because you're an illustrator, and then all of a sudden you use the medium of comic books, although you made something before. What was the hardest thing for you to do in this book? Was it a certain kind of scene or a page, or?
Yeah, of course. The hardest part was to show or to explain the Enigma machine and how the Enigma machine works. It was I really tried to tell it in an easy way that everybody can get it. But it was a bit hard to show. It is also one of the reasons why the style changed in the book. In this technical style, it's really that I opened a machine like these buildings, so that you can have a look inside, that you can maybe understand it with the drawing, that you can read out how it works. And
I'm not sure if
it wasn't that easy.
No, it's one of the toughest paragraphs in the book, I think, because it's complicated.
It's super complicated, but it is complicated, so you can't explain it super easy. So
this is the Enigma machine, or it looks like a typewriter, sort of.
I mean, they worked years on it to crack the machine, so it's not an easy topic.
No, it is not. But you felt compelled to explain it, of course, because that's what we know Alan Turing about, of him, basically. So, do you have what kind of comics do you like to read? Do you like to read comics?
Yeah, of course. I really like to read comics.
What kind of comics do you like to read?
Oh, this is, I really don't like these DC comics.
You don't like DC
no,
comics?
This is
well,
too
like
much for me. Yeah, I'm really into these art books. These
art
European art comic books.
More like the graphic novels.
The graphic novels.
What's the German word for that? Do you have a
graphic novel?
The graphic novels. Okay, that is good. That's easy. So, what kind of? Do you have any names you can? Or
I have many colleagues I can name, like Anna Haifisch, I really like her, Max Beitinger. They are colleagues from the town I live in Leipzig, and they are colleagues like the guys from Kassel, the illustration class from Kassel. Aisha Franz is also a famous comic art author,
and if any of those guys...
There are so many.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Although you told me that the scene in Germany, the comic book scene, that's quite interesting. Although Germany is a lot bigger than the Netherlands, you said the scene is about as big in Germany as it is in the Netherlands, right? So there's not a lot of comic book artists.
At the end, this is not that big. It's growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it takes its time to grow.
It's like.
Yeah, I mean, we have 3 important publishing houses for comics: Carlsen, Avant, and Reprodukt, and Rotopol. Yeah, and that's it.
So what is the status of comic books in Germany? Is it like as small as in the Netherlands, or do people really take it seriously? Or
I think it's getting seriously, because the newspapers writing about comic artists or about the comic books that are coming out, and
All right, so that's good.
Yeah, of course.
So what will the future hold for you? What will you make a next graphic novel?
Yeah, because I worked on a graphic novel last year for the Spiegel. It's a big publishing house, a big magazine, and I worked about Humboldt, Alexander von Humboldt, and I thought about to work on it and make a new book out of it. But it's not sure. It's just an idea.
And who is Alexander?
Alexander von Humboldt.
Yeah.
He's yeah, he's a nature scientist, I think. Yeah.
Another scientist.
Is it the real name for it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a scientist.
So what fascinates you about scientists so
because he discovered a lot of plants. He did a lot of expeditions to the south of America, and he discovered a lot of plants, and he named his plants. Together with a guy from France, Aimé Bonpland, and I think he also discovered a lot. It's very useful for now because the climate is changing and everything like this. The problems we have now, he discovered 250 years ago.
All right.
Yeah, because he said when you are cutting the woods, the climate will change. The air will dry out, and you will get a lot of problems.
So again, it's a book about a thing that's still going on right now, because the Alan Turing story is still very relevant, right? Because a lot of gays are still being prosecuted around the world. A certain sultan has it's like his hobby to get after gays, which is terrible. But also this is about climate change, basically. So, is that like a gut thing for you just because you think it's interesting, or is there also a commercial kind of guy inside you that thinks like, I should make a story like this because this is something we talk about all the time right now?
Yeah, maybe it is, because it's an important topic to talk about, so I think it will be nice to have a easy story about it to get in when you are maybe young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think I want to read a comic book about Bobby Fugg.
Yeah, I
Sounds
know.
interesting.
Maybe I will do a comic book about him one day, but at the moment it's not safe. It's more. I really like to play with this comic, with this character, and he is a bit holy for me.
He's too holy for you, right?
Yes. To do a book with him. Yeah.
Or maybe it would be a challenge for you to do
Yeah,
so.
of course it is, because maybe I will show too much of myself.
Yeah, you.
Yes.
How old are you right now?
I'm 37.
37. Oh, it's about time to show something of yourself.
No.
Huh?
Maybe.
No time like the present. Anyway, does anyone in the audience have a question? I'm not sure if you guys, well, you've read the book, you published it for Christ's sakes, but is anyone want to ask a question? Yeah, Gerrit?
Question. What was the format that you painted it on? Because you painted it a lot bigger than it is.
Yes, I did. It's 2 comic pages I did on one page, so you have the double page on the 60 to 42 centimeters page. It's A2.
So how big is that compared to the book?
It's a bit bigger. The original pages are a bit bigger, like this. Yes.
So not that much bigger.
No.
Basically.
This was one of the reasons why I want to have the book in this size, to show the small details.
Did you have a chance to read it already, Gerrit?
No, I just saw it, I didn't read it, but I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
It's very nice, and I was very because when you paint it, you must have been very precise to do a relatively small. Do you normally, when you make paintings, work on this size too?
Yeah, some of them are much more bigger, and some of them really small, because I really like it, because it's also the influence of the people I really like, the small painters, these naive painters like Albert Ebert. He's an artist from Halle, from Germany, and he's always working on these small wooden.
But did you vary on the page, on the size that you painted? Because I can imagine that some scenes you have to really paint.
Yeah, I did some of the scenes, and you have 2 double pages in the book, and I painted in I don't know, 80 to 60 format. It's much more bigger.
Yeah. Good question. Anyone else? Yeah.
We all know Turing,
Yeah.
but nobody knows Alexander von Humboldt. Do you think, maybe in German, do you think that it would be better commercially seen to give it another title?
Yeah,
instead of Alexander von Humboldt.
I thought about it because it's Turing was easy to say Turing because it's very strong, I think. But Humboldt, most of the Germans know Humboldt, but in international people don't know him.
And I think
Maybe the people from the South of America, because rivers and mountains were named
but
because of him.
Here in Holland, and as Hans is going to do your next book as well, here in Holland, I think climate change would be a better
That's
or
true.
more commercial.
Maybe it's a good subline. Maybe you have to work with a better subline.
Maybe a clickbait title: the guy who invented climate
Something
change.
like that. Yeah.
Yes. 250 years before.
That's good. So
The German Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well,
the German Indiana Jones.
No.
So we talked about you painted this book, but your illustration work, do you do that digitally or is it also painted?
It's also painted.
Everything's
Everything,
painted?
yes, by hand.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but I'm very quick in it because it's my technique now.
So first you paint it and then you have to scan it if you have to send it to the magazines and such.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
an elaborate process. It has to dry before you put it on the scanner or else it smears.
No, it's no problem because I'm working with acrylic and it's drying very fast, so I can scan it and it's in a very good quality. And the art directors are always asking me, and you are doing it by hand? Really? They can't get it. Yeah.
Well, because you're one of the few people who still works, I think. Although Gerrit made a graphic novel on a pretty small scale, right? Was it A5?
Yes, A5. Yes.
A5. So he did like, and he started out just doing a couple of scenes, and then his publisher said, "Oh, bring it out like this." So you worked right directly on paper, and I don't think you did a lot of corrections, right? When you
Not at all. This is not normal for me. I just delivered some sketches to the publisher on this very small format, and then he thought, "Oh, this is good, not good enough. It sounds a bit." He thought it was very good, and then he published it like that. But I'm also working by hand still. I just did a course of Illustrator, you know, the program. It was so boring.
It's boring, of course. That's the reason why I can't sit all the time in front of the computer. My eyes start to cry.
Yes, and I have the idea that these drawing programs are really for people who can't draw.
well, I can't subscribe.
And I really like to have an original at the end. I can show the original in exhibitions and can sell them. And yes, that's one of the reasons when you are doing a comic book, because you can't get that much money with a comic book, so you have the originals.
Well, that's true. And even the new Blake and Mortimer is made by hand.
Yeah, it's made by pencil. Actually, Peter does like free tries on Peter van Dongen is a Dutch comic book artist, and he does the Claire, how do you say it, Claire line? Clear line style, like the Hergé kind of rip-off style, and he does like 3 versions of a page, I think, every time. So it's very elaborate. It takes ages for him to finish a book. Although the result is quite impressive. But
why would you go faster on computers? I don't see that. Why would you make a Blake and Mortimer page on computer faster than by hand?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can just that's a good question for another time.
Everybody thinks that when you have a computer, you say, okay, make a Blake and Mortimer page, and then it's there.
No,
It's not like that.
It still works.
You still have to work
You still have to draw the stuff.
You
Yeah,
have to
sure.
draw the stuff.
So your work has been exhibited around the world. What was the most interesting reaction you got from the stuff that's when it's hanging on the wall?
Oh wow, I have to think about it.
Oh, we got time.
Maybe it was in Porto. It was quite nice. They invited me in 2000 and I don't know 13, 14 to do an exhibition in Porto, and I got a small room and then we did a small action painting with a gun, and we shot small paintballs on the wall, and it was kind of funny, and this was maybe one of the coolest reactions from the people.
Cool, yeah. Alright. Any more questions from the audience, or else we're just going to wrap it up?
Yes,
And Irene.
So this is a biographical novel, and your next project will also be a
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Do you prefer to work the stories that are already there, or would you like to do something completely original one day?
Yeah, one day I really like to do something maybe with Bobby Feucht. This is something really strange, so this comes out of me, but I really prefer at the moment yeah, to work on much more important stuff, or yeah.
Why is that? Why do comics need to be important?
I don't know, maybe it's nice to explain the world in comics.
So
What's happened before?
what would you like readers to get away from this book? Like if you have to put one message across in these 200 pages almost, what would you like people to remember from the book or learn from the book?
Yeah, the people should remember him because what happened to him, this kind of treatment, what happened to him, because the times are changing now. We can see it because everything gets a bit to the right side in Europe, and I don't know how long it. It's like this. Yeah, we have it now. Maybe it's very open, I think, and it's not a problem for the homosexual people to live in Europe, and they can live free.
So you got like...
Maybe it will change someday. You know, in the history, the things change very quickly.
So you want to get the message across?
Yeah, I think so.
Chill out, basically, and accept people for what they are.
Yeah, of course.
Before it's gone, before we go to the other side, basically.
Yeah.
The dark side.
And also what he did, because he was a computer scientist, so that he was thinking at first, because he lost his friend, and he tried to catch this character, this soul of his friend, into a machine, and this was I think one of the first how to say tries to develop the artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Well, without Turing, maybe we wouldn't have the internet right now, right?
Yeah, of course.
So he has been very important as a computer pioneer.
Yes.
And as a scientist, and also as maybe a gay activist now. Not at the time when he was living, because he was more a victim. But now you tell his story, and thanks to his production, sorry. I forgot his... Yeah? What's his first name? I always forget. Benedict, thank you. Benedict Eggs, sunny side up. But thanks to telling his Turing story, maybe you'll get to make the world a little bit better that way. That's good. That's a good idea. But still, Bobby Feucht can make us laugh, and that's very important too, I think. And I like his SMM outfit, so you should do something with that. Just embrace that shit. That's good. All right, guys. I want to wrap it up. Robert is gonna sign the book if you want to buy it. And thank you very much for listening. I've been Michael Minneboo, Dutch journalist, and this is... Can I have your hands together for Robert Deutsch, please?
Thank you very much. And I also brought some prints, special prints for the book, if you want a book. Special for this edition.
And it's on sale everywhere where people have common sense and sell great stuff. Right? So like a bookstore and Concerto, of course. So Concerto. 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 Is that better? Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I hope it was okay.